The chief of station eyed me skeptically. "John? Don't lie to me," she said, her voice sharp. "You're our third cipher clerk in 2 months. I can't believe they're sending in another one without knowing what happened to the others." "I'm sorry, Miss Adams. I don't know what you mean," I answered, my heart racing with the excitement of finally being a spy. She shook her head in disbelief. "This is ridiculous. You were recruited by Sonia, right? If not, what was that meeting about?" She sat across from me, so strong and commanding that I almost wanted to confess. But then I remembered feeling the same way about Miss Sonia Edwards during my interview, and I managed to keep my composure. "Sonia? You mean Miss Edwards? As you know, she heads the clerical section and she's the agency rep. You think I haven't figured that out? What kind of idiot does Washington take me for?" She was nearly shaking with anger, banging her fist on the table. "She only talked about the ethics of my position and my responsibilities," I said, repeating exactly what Miss Edwards had drilled into me. Miss Adams leaned back in her chair, looking a little more relaxed. "You gay, John?" she asked nonchalantly. "No. I'm not," I replied sharply, confused by why everyone seemed so obsessed with my personal life. "I hope not," she said. The last 2 guys said the same thing, but there was always something. You know, a woman can pick up on those things. "You getting that vibe from me?" I asked, trying to sound as indifferent as possible. After a pause, likely aware of the risks of discrimination claims, she answered. "No, John. Guess not." She then gave me a once-over. "But you are a bit refined, you know." I felt my face flush, but I didn't respond. She chuckled. "You do blush nicely, though." Her laughter deepened as my face grew even redder. Then she got to the point. "You'll be reporting to Ann Savage, who reports to me. You don't mind that, do you?" "Of course not." "Why would I?" I replied. "Forgive me. I've just been in this country too long, the last bastion of male superiority, I think. Had to ask, I guess." "Well, we all do our part in promoting gender equality, right?" I said, my tone a bit more formal. She smiled and waved me off. "All right, off you go then, dear." I left her office, secretly pleased with my assignment in this new country. The staff here seemed mostly made up of women, strong, assertive ones. The thought of working with them sent a thrill through me. I hoped my new supervisor would be just as commanding. To my delight, she was. After I was assigned my desk and some tasks, she allowed me to leave for the day and get settled into my apartment. I took in the furnished space provided by the embassy and wondered which of the 3 women I'd invite over for dinner first. As I unpacked and cleaned, I found myself getting frustrated over a small tear in my new apron. I'd sew it later. For dinner, I had a light salad, trying to stay fit, since my slight frame didn't allow for much extra weight. I thought about whether the embassy had a gym, but I doubted I'd use it. Still, I was proud of my smooth skin and toned arms. Who decided men had to be covered in hair and muscles, anyway? I thought back to my interview with Miss Edwards, stocky, with a no-nonsense attitude. "Are you gay?" she asked as soon as I sat down in her office. "Not that I care either way, but I need you to do something for your country. If you're gay, you're going to be useless to me. Gays are heavily persecuted here, and the ones at the embassy know to stay within the compound, or transfer out." "I'm straight, Miss Edwards," I assured her, though I didn't mention that I was still a virgin and technically couldn't claim to be fully straight. Still, all my fantasies revolved around women. "Good," she said, nodding. "Now, something's happening to our cipher clerks here. You're the 3rd one in a few months, and I need to know what's going on." I paled. "I'm just a clerk, Miss Edwards. Not exactly a spy." She gave me a smile that I assumed was meant to be reassuring. Look, there's no physical danger. This will just be about listening carefully and reporting anything you hear. But I don't know anyone here, and I don't speak the language. I'm flattered that you think I can help, but... Listen, you're a man. That means a lot here. We have one good contact, but he won't work with women. It's a real pain, like all the men here. They think women are good for one thing, and that's it. It's a wonder he even talks to me on the phone. She laughed. Thank God I have a deep voice. How will I meet him? I asked, feeling a little calmer knowing there wouldn't be any danger involved. His name's Anton Kirovov. Don't bother looking him up, he'll contact you when he's ready. Any idea when? Not a clue. Just make sure you get along with him. You do drink, don't you? Yes, I do occasionally, I admitted. I loved banana daiquiris, though I didn't mention how one too many could leave me tipsy. Thank goodness, she said. For a second, I thought you were going to tell me you're a teetotaler. Anyway, Anton's into single malt scotch, but he doesn't have the cash for it. So make sure you're prepared to spend a little when you meet him. You'll be reimbursed for your expenses, she added when she saw my reaction. But be careful what you say to him. Like all the other men here, he's a sensitive guy. Treat him with care. Just then, the doorbell rang. I almost forgot to take off my apron, but caught myself in time. I untied it and draped it over a chair before opening the door. A broad, dark-haired man with a thick mustache stood there, his expression unreadable. I'm Anton Kirovov, he said with a hint of pride. You were expecting me, no? I glanced around nervously. Yes, Mr. Kirovov, but not so soon. Are you saying I'm not welcome? He growled. Oh no! Mr. Kirovov. I wasn't saying that at all. Then why do you keep me standing here? Only women stand and talk in hallways. Oh. Sorry. Come in, please. I said, stepping aside as he stalked past me. The place is a bit of a... I began, but he pointed to my apron on the chair. A woman left her work clothes here. Bad start. You need to talk to that woman. I was about to tell him it was my apron, but then I remembered the advice about appearing more masculine. Though the apron wasn't overly feminine, it did have a frill or two, nothing wrong with a slightly feminine apron, right? You're absolutely right, Mr. Kirovov. I said quickly. I noticed it as soon as I came in. I left it there so the cleaning woman could see her failure. I didn't want to touch it. I was impressed with my quick thinking. He nodded, seeming satisfied. She a local woman? Yes. I don't think she speaks much English, I replied. Otherwise, I would have spoken to her immediately. Good. But you can't speak my language? No, I'm sorry. Then you must learn one phrase when dealing with women. Здравствуйте, Yarblov. Huh? What does that mean? Never mind for now. Just repeat it for me. Здравствуйте, Yarblov. I did my best to repeat the phrase, but struggled. Anton patiently coached me until I got it right, then had me practice saying it firmly, from my chest, until he was satisfied. Pleased that he seemed to be warming up to me, I finally asked, what does it mean? It's an abbreviation, he said. But roughly translated, it means, woman. Know your place and shut up. He looked at me as if searching for something, missing the shock on my face. We need to talk, he said. Do you have any scotch? I was outraged by his words, but remembered Miss Edwards' warning and forced myself to sound apologetic. No, Anton. Sorry, I haven't had the chance to get any yet. He nodded. All right, but we need to talk, and I'd prefer to do it over a drink. Sounds good. I said, hiding my nerves. Let me grab my jacket, and we can head to a bar. He smiled, revealing less than perfect teeth. I know a good place. Let's go. The place he took me to didn't seem like a bar at all. It felt more like a grand house, with a maid in a black dress leading us to a sitting room. Anton seemed to ignore her, and she didn't seem bothered, though she grew nervous when I smiled at her, quickly turning away. He noticed. I forgot to mention, don't talk to or acknowledge the ones in black dresses. Before I could reply, a large woman in a red satin dress interrupted. Anton, darling. How wonderful to see you. So kind of you to visit. Gloria. Anton bellowed, pulling her into a hug. I was just telling John something, and you interrupted me. Drastovasik Yarblov. A look of alarm crossed her face. I'm so sorry, Anton. I didn't mean to. Anton smiled and gently tapped her cheek. I'm just thirsty, Gloria. 2 scotches for me and my friend, then we'll get to business. It's quiet tonight, she said. Should I send some of the girls in? Yes, of course. But the scotches first, make them large. It wasn't until I was holding my glass of scotch that I realized we were in a brothel. Several girls came in, all attractive, and paraded around us in various stages of undress, smiling at us. A few of the bolder ones eyed us openly. I was horrified. I had no idea how to behave and was pretty sure I couldn't perform intimately, but Anton seemed perfectly confident. You, he growled, pointing at a redhead. Do you do it well? Of course, sir, she smiled. I give great blowjobs. Want a threesome with your friend? Anton scowled. You're that new American girl, aren't you? Talking too much. Drastovasik Yarblov. She shot us a petulant look, knowing she'd been dismissed, but Anton had already moved on to a petite brunette who was in his lap moments later. He looked at me over her shoulder. Well, John? Pick a girl. I'll meet you back here in a couple of hours. I almost choked on my drink, but the scotch gave me some false confidence. I'll take her, I said, pointing to a cute blonde who looked like a schoolgirl. She smiled warmly and kissed my cheek. Okay, Johnny, let's do it, she said, leading me to her room. She started undressing immediately. Please don't. I said. I don't want to exploit women. She frowned. No, understand. You want fun? No. I'd rather talk. How did a nice girl like you end up here? I asked. Want talk? No intimacy? I nodded, and her face clouded with uncertainty. But me know how talk, she said, then brightened. Me get Charlene. She left and returned with the red-haired American girl. Tiffany here says you want to talk, she asked, looking doubtful. Yeah, I'm just too tired from the trip. I'm not used to jet lag, I explained. She nodded sympathetically. Yeah, it can be a bitch, huh? Yeah, I said, mimicking John Wayne. Got that right, sister. How come? Look, she interrupted. No offense, mister, but I'm new here. Tiffany thinks I'm moving in on her territory, and she'll cause trouble. How about I just act as an interpreter between you two? Honestly, I don't know what to talk about, I admitted. Oh, the girls here are really curious about the States. They don't believe half of what I tell them, but they'll listen to a man. Charlene replied. Hey, thanks. I said, and she spoke to the girl, who brightened and responded with something. She wants to know if everyone has cars there, like in the movies, Charlene translated. I smiled. Not exactly, but there are a lot of cars on the roads. Tiffany said something else. Do you drive a big car? She asked. No, I don't have a car, I confessed. In fact, I can't even drive. The girl looked surprised. But women can drive there, like Charlene says? Charlene asked. I grinned. Oh, yes. No one would dare try to stop them. Charlene smiled. Look, it's a quiet night. Would it be okay if I brought in some of the other girls? They'd be fascinated, honestly. I was flattered. No problem. Go ahead. The small room quickly filled up. I ended up sitting upright on the bed with my back to the wall, conscious of the women surrounding me, dressed in satin, their perfume filling the air. Soon, Charlene started asking me questions, which the others listened to intently. They'd discuss things among themselves, then come back with more questions. It was clear that their primary interest was in women's lives in the States. They seemed amazed that men didn't abuse women, actually could go to jail for it. This prompted gasps of surprise. Then, they asked about women's fashion. I took pride in my knowledge of fashion, and they watched me in awe as I explained designers, styles, and fabrics. I even showed off my knowledge of cosmetic trends. I caught them glancing at each other, which I took as admiration. Their eyes began to shine in a way I interpreted as jealousy. After all, the United States is a beacon of democracy for the world, right? All men, and women, are created equal, I declared grandly. But as they crowded around me, I began to feel overwhelmed by the sea of femininity. My hands were brushing against soft, satin-covered skin, and I started to sweat. You look warm, John, Charlene observed. Well, it is a bit close in here, I replied. She spoke to the others, and suddenly, my jacket was removed. Oh, come on, girls. I protested, but they ignored me. Tiffany says your shoes are ruining the bed covers. Do you mind? Charlene asked, and before I could respond, my shoes were taken off. Now, what are your socks made of? I was asked. I don't know, I replied. Some man-made fiber, I guess. They want to see them. You don't mind, do you? I could hardly see my feet anymore, surrounded by warm, soft bodies, but I felt my socks being removed. I heard sighs of appreciation. The girls love your feet, John. They think your toenails are pretty. Do you use a pink shade? Ha ha, no. I don't think so. I was in a hurry the last time I did my pedicure. Your fingernails are nice too. The girls are impressed, she said. Somehow, I ended up lying flat on my back, looking up at a group of women who were smiling down at me, their gazes intense. I told myself it had to be the lighting. How many women have you beaten, John? Me? Beat women? That's ridiculous. Any women ever beat you? Spanked you, maybe? Just my mom, I said, and the women nodded approvingly. You seem to know a lot about women's clothes, John. The girls are wondering if you've ever worn them. That's absurd. Never? Not even once? Well, there was that one time. It was a costume party. The women all sighed collectively as Charlene translated. What did you wear, John? A dress? Skirt and blouse? An evening dress, if you must know. Pink and frilly? No. Blue, actually. Frilly? Yes, kind of. Naturally, you wore the proper underclothes too, right? I didn't answer, but she kept pressing. Bra and panties? A slip? Garter belt and stockings? Come on, John, tell Charlene. Bet you were pretty. Makeup and a hairdo? As my clothes were slowly being removed, all I could do was stare up at the sea of women's shining eyes. Slowly, I nodded in response to Charlene's question. And now, clothes were being put back on me. Silks and satins were caressing my skin, nylons were sliding on my legs, tiny buckles were being adjusted on fine straps at my shoulders. I didn't cry out or argue. just laid there docile and submissive while the women worked on dressing me, cooing and touching me in the most familiar manner imaginable. Then I was standing on my feet and a black dress was being slid over my head. Okay, girls. A joke's a joke. I tried to get our relative status established again. I think this has gone far enough. Ha ha. Oh, Joan, shut up for goodness sake. Charlene snapped. Let the girls get your wig and makeup on. And a platinum blonde wig was being put on my head and I was being forced to sit on the bed. Two of the girls were putting makeup on my face and another was applying a brilliant red polish to my nails. Hey! Please stop. I cried. I can't have Anton see me like this. Please stop this, immediately. Got news for you, sweetie. Anton can't see you. You're invisible to him now. Charlene said. What are you talking about? Of course he can see me, just not like this. Joan? That's your name now, by the way. Sissies like you become maids, especially in brothels like this. Men in this country refuse to acknowledge that a male could possibly dress like a woman, because if they did, they'd have to do you, and that is so far beyond their comprehension that they totally ignore sissies. Can't see you. Can't hear you. You can't be serious. I said, almost laughing at the absurdity of it all. Then I remembered what Anton had started to say before Gloria had interrupted. Suddenly, I was frightened. Hey Charlene. Help a fellow American out, will you? Please? Help you out? Why should I, because I'm an American? Why do you think I came to this country in the first place? Why do you think I stay here? She was angry. I don't know, Charlene. Why? Because here? Men are men, and women love them. Pansies like you come in handy as maids, but nobody ever thinks of them as men. Now I suggest that you get out of here and go and report to Gloria. She'll find plenty for you to do. But Charlene? I've got to get to work tomorrow. Joan? This is your work now. Behave properly and maybe they'll let you go and be a lady's maid to some nice woman someday. But until Gloria lets you go? You're a whorehouse maid. She muttered something at the girls and 3 or 4 of them surrounded me then, giggling and chattering, led me out of the door and down the hall where they knocked on a large, ornate door. I heard Gloria's voice. Yes. Come in. And I was led in. To my amazement, Gloria was there, but so also were Miss Adams, Miss Edwards, and Savage, all of whom were lounging on easy chairs with drinks in their hands. My! That didn't take long. Miss Adams said. He's a pretty one too, said Miss Edwards. Geez. I must admit, these psychological profiles you use to get candidates really work, Sonia. And Savage said, laughing delightedly. Yup. Miss Edwards said smugly. But I've lost the flip the last 2 times. This one's mine. She looked over at Gloria. Where's my dildo, hon? Gloria got up and went into another room. Returned with a huge dildo and handed it to Sonia. We get to watch. Miss Adams said. Because I'll want to turn afterwards, and I always say that watching a pansy take it up the ass gets me right in the mood. Can we watch too? The girls at the door said. Sure. No problem. But these ladies will probably be first after me. You can have him after that. Sonia said, lifting her skirt and starting to adjust the straps of the dildo around herself. Here, Joan. Come and put this on me. I can't do that. I said, whining. Please, Miss Edwards? Gloria walked swiftly across the room. Before I knew what was coming, she rocked me with a slap to my face. Drastovasic Yarblov, she hissed.